show you were on last, because we're carrying on from that. Sorry, Winter Blue, and
was it Killer Quads or
Killer
something
Quads?
like that?
Yeah,
Killer
yeah.
Quads?
And you're listening to the behind the scenes of Killer Quads podcast, live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Don't worry about Let's Try Now. It's a load of old shite. Hello. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say the good news is I have all my list of topics that we didn't get anywhere near from that podcast that was on 2 days ago. So I'm just finding them. You just talk amongst yourselves. Bear with me.
Winter Blue, if you'd like to complain and shout at us, you can find us at the Discord, where I pay little to no attention. I'm very sorry. Right, hello and welcome back to the Lonely Artist Cast. No, that's the other podcast. And you're listening to Let's Drone Out. Tonight you're joined by Andrew / Frank.
Good evening.
Everyone's favourite curry kitten.
Hello.
Not available on Wednesdays anymore.
For a while.
I went to the bookshelf. I've got a statue of Shakespeare. I tilted its head back, pressed the emergency button. The telephone raised up. I dialed it. I was like, "Hey, Painless, what you up to? Do you fancy coming on and saving the day?" And we have Painless 360.
Hello, good evening.
So
bear with me. I am just 10 minutes ago I was literally sat on my bed strolling through the phone, and then Jack's name came up and I was like, "All right, mate," and he's like, "What are you doing?" so I'm not quite there yet mentally. In 5 more minutes I'll be fine, but just bear with me.
I mean, prior to that, 1 minute before that, Frank phoned me to wake me up.
but apart from that, we're ready.
Yeah, it's planned, professional, all these things. We're talking about the other show, right? Jack, have you been able to get out and fly at all this week?
I'm bright until I fly. Hello, let's start the show. Say that again, Frank.
Have you been able to get out and fly at all this week, Jack?
Yes, I flew Tuesday. I had a very good time.
Good.
I've got some footage, and yes, I went to Stamford Park. They're now charging for parking, which sucks. But I actually got to fly around some trees. I clipped a few trees, clipped a few bushes, and had a good old time.
Did you clip the hill again?
No. The Mars, I must say, excellent. Is it mini camera? Like micro camera. I must say, thank you, Venus. It is incredible, but unfortunately, the case is cracked on it, so it didn't hold up too well to a tree. But,
destructive testing. I don't tend to do that, so thank you for that.
Yeah, and I found out that the Toothless is a micro camera, so it's actually 19, 20, 21, 22, 3 millimeters wider and doesn't fit. So great, good to know. 19 mil for the win. So we're trying to fix that. So I went to flew with Digby Dan, and Tom came with us, who I met through, funny enough, eBay, and I bought some receivers from him, and I've broke the Ottoman lid, and I was like, "Man, can you do something about that?" And he was like, "Yep." So once again, using it's the people you know and their wonderful skills, and his whole woodwork shop.
I'm glad you explained that, because I thought breaking the Ottoman lid was some sort of weird euphemism for something else I don't know about.
We're all part of the kinky Winter Blue. I am so we should invite him on. Just have him and
probably should.
Killer Quads on, like, and just be like, "Welcome to your show," which is quite funny. So I had a good time. Nothing too eventful happened with flying, but managed to do about 4 packs we got out a little late, and it was the Torval bag's first day out as well. So I'm one of these guys who've got an FPV bag. It is nice having everything with you, but geez, it's so heavy. It hurts my insides a bit. It is so heavy.
Put so much in it, and then it wouldn't be as heavy.
It's heavy with stuff not really in it. I mean, I could lose. Funny enough, I brought the tablet along with me, and
the tablet or your tablets. I mean, there's quite a big weight difference there between the
tablet.
Two. Yeah.
Well, no, not really. Not. Have you seen how many tablets I have to take?
That's what I meant. The single tablet is the lighter one.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Took that. Funny enough, Tom used that, so that was pretty good. And didn't really use any of my sort of tools or anything. Just grabbed a few props, but the main compartment of it's pretty empty. It's only got a few tools in it. My transmitter. It's nice not to break every single switch off my transmitter. For a change, because with my Jippo bags. Of
carrier bags, not the one.
Yeah, but if you're unfamiliar with this story, Painless, I've broken all my long lever switches off my Tyrannus by putting it in a carrier bag.
Okay. I've got a couple of bags and cases in here, mate. If you need something, just hit me up, because I've got things hanging about. If you genuinely need a bag to keep it safe,
I've sorted it now, but. Cool. the bag weighs a ton. I think it's literally all padding and the front repair flap bit where it's got like a little magnetic pot on it, which is completely useless for me because all my hardware's aluminium. But that's what happens. That's completely thinking about cutting that bit out, but I don't know whether that's a good idea or not to start just hacking bits off a bag.
Tailspin says you don't need a car battery.
There is no car battery in there.
Grumpy says you don't need a petrol generator. Caroline says you need to pack some helium balloons in.
It weighs a ton, this bag. It's just all padding and bag. It's like,
I think you need to get it on some scales to see what it does weigh. That'd be interesting. Perhaps you're not just distributing the weight properly on yourself.
I managed to break my momentary switch in the Torval transmitter case. Aha, I didn't buy one of those. I see a dolphin behind Lee. Have you got a dolphin, Lee?
Yes, no, I see. I've got to do the right,
what it's called.
Right hand. That's it. Yeah, that's the Atom RC Dolphin. So we had the killer whale, the bloody stupid names. Not the killer whales and dolphins. Bloody stupid.
That's fine. Yeah,
very smart. But it's like calling them fluffy teddy bear and things like that, and then making planes that look. See, normally, just to everyone watching, and if you're listening to the podcast, this will make no sense. But I'm trying to point behind my shoulder, and normally my camera is flipped, so it's like mirror image. So it's like, when you're looking in the mirror, it makes sense. And this one, for some reason, isn't working like that. Yeah, so that's the dolphin. So after I did the killer whale, which was a twin-engined kind of lovely floaty thing, loads of room inside, quite a few people got in touch and said, "Oh, right, try the dolphin." So I'm thinking, okay, right, fine. So I looked it up, and God damn it, it looks like that. Which in the pictures because I ordered that one from Banggood, and on the pictures it looked a bit goofy, but everyone was saying, "Oh, it's quite good." Looked at a few videos on YouTube, because of course that's how you find out whether something flies or not. And it was doing stupid speed, so I thought I'll get one in, and it arrived today. And unpacking it, I'm quite impressed, and it does remind me of, there was a movie back in, I think it was the 80s, with Clint Eastwood called Firefox. See, there's a certain below a certain age. It is now. Back then, it was like the secret code name for a special, Soviet MiG, the new hypersonic plane that he stole, because it's Clint Eastwood. But that plane looked epic. It's probably one of my favorite plane designs, and it kind of looks a little bit like that. It's even got canards. Is that how you say those? At the front. I'm not sure they do anything, but it looks epic. So that is going to have my and little INAV flight controller in it. And then the real reason I kind of got it is because I'm getting in an FPV combat system to have a play with a couple of my friends. I'm getting, I think, 3. So I'm going to have one, a couple of mates are going to have one, and we're going to be able to do aerial dogfighting. So it's like you had the guy on a couple of weeks ago on here, actually, I think. And of course, I thought, well, 100 mile an hour super agile wing is just the kind of thing. And then when my friends found out what I was going to put it in, they did the eye roll because they were just going to stick it in any old thing. So unfortunately now they'll probably end up with having 3 of them, because the guy who did the FPV system, when I sent him the picture of it today and went, hey, the plane I'm going to put it in is here. He went, oh, right. So you're flying the same thing to make it fair? No. Yes, probably. I just had this great idea of them, poodling along a little wing and me doing 100 mile an hour pass and shooting them and zooming away into the sky. But I don't think it's going to work like that. But actually, it's a really nice model. It isn't particularly expensive. It's got tons of room in there. So I'm going to have a lot of fun over the next 2 or 3 days building it. And I haven't built a fixed wing model for probably 5 or 6 weeks, something like that. And I don't know about you guys, but I get as much fun out the building and the messing and the problem solving as I do with the flying and that stuff. And I've not been building anything because, Wayne and I Curry Kitten and I talked a couple of weeks ago about this, the China thing and the products coming in from China after Chinese New Year. It's been really slow to get going again. So there hasn't been a lot of stuff to review. So there hasn't been all the stuff coming in for you to play with. So this is kind of I will get the hang of this pointy thing by the end of this show. And then the next thing I'm going to be all messed up. I'm really looking forward to setting that up, because in the videos I've seen of people playing with it, it's a really fast, agile wing. And my mate is now, both of my mates, we've been practicing playing follow the leader in the sky. So actually, finding the other pilot, getting in behind them and following them around. Because the thing is, when you do lots of FPV with fixed wing, that's not, unless you're filming, you don't tend to do that naturally anyway. You don't tend to try and stay behind, and it's been really, really good fun. So yeah, it is the short answer. Yeah, it's a Dolphin. The first video will be up on Sunday, and I'll probably be asking people for what motor and prop combo. It's come with one, but I don't think it's the one that will give you crazy, insane speeds. I think we need more thrust.
So is it a regular motor pusher prop as opposed to like an EDF or something?
No, it's a regular pusher prop. I'm not a massive fan of EDFs. I think they look really cool, but they burn so much battery. You need a really lot of noise to do it. They make a huge amount of noise. But then again, some of these do as well. I mean, look at the noise you get from something like a Drac or the E-Wings Black Hawk. I mean, those things just make a horrible screaming noise. Well, actually, it's not horrible. It's fantastic. But it does mean that, if you fly anywhere but in the middle of nowhere, you get people kind of stood at the edge of the field kind of glowering at you when you bring it into land, asking them what you think you're playing at. But I'm hoping this will be the same. But this one will have pretend guns and I can shoot at my friends. It'll be fantastic. What's not to love? I've got to ask though, Jack, are you still doing the fixed wing stuff? Because that sounded like you were doing quads the other day.
Yes, I've built. Well, just last night, I finished soldering the ESC and motor combo for my flight test cub. So I kind of built that for something short, SWAL, is it, short takeoff and landing?
Stall.
And yeah, and I don't know, something for fixed wing. And just I don't know these terms, but yeah, something to fly around Sheldon's that might be quite good. And I've brought a streamer with me, so we could have a little chase. I don't know whether to stick FPV in it, and I'm hanging on. I'm desperately hanging on for the update for iNav, because iNav, I'm kind of waiting for it to go past 3 and sort of settle out and stuff like that. So it's still there. I've got my wings, but I'm just kind of like hanging on for the updates. Plus,
Any
what doesn't
particular
help,
feature that you're waiting for, or
yes, but I can't remember it anymore. And right, so I went to the final update of this is incredibly thrilling information, but I went for
you're not
the
listing ASCs again, are you?
No, I finally went for the like the update for the Tyrannus, so that you don't get the joystick problem anymore and stuff. And then we might be switching over to, is it Edge or something? I don't know. I can't remember what it's called. Like there's going to be a fork of OpenTX. But anyway, yeah, updating that for some reason has unbound all my Crossfire receivers.
Okay,
So
it's the receiver number. I'll send you the link to the video that explains what it is, because
oh no, I've fallen into that landmine.
How long did
There's
that
a video
take?
for that.
Oh,
But there is a video for that. Yeah.
What you should do is have multi-binds. Like, I can't get the Wi-Fi to show up.
No, you don't need that. Just change your RX num to 0 on your Crossfire models, because RX num in later versions of OpenTX is actually used as part of the bind stuff with Crossfire, and before it didn't care about it. So I had loads of people sending me that exact question about, I've done an update, I can't bind. So I don't tend to be on the very latest versions of OpenTX for my flight radios, so I hadn't bumped into it. So I kind of just messaged Trappy and went, what's going on? And he went, it's RX num. What? So he explained to me, and I did a video about it, and everyone was like, oh, okay. But you obviously haven't found it. So that's the answer, brother. So yeah, RX. So, but if you set to the default number of 0, you should be fine, right?
Yeah. So whilst I was flying, nothing was bound. So like I met up with Tom for flying, and he was like, Digby Dan hasn't flown for about 3 years because his life's been in the air. Hey, Digby, if you're listening, how you doing? And then he meets up with me, and he's just like, he's looking at us like, why am I flying with these two noobs? Like, I show up like nothing's bound on my transmitter, and Digby Dan like instantly crashes into a tree. So I had all that, and also I noticed something really weird was that my Crossfire knew it was connected to a KISS flight controller. That was new. I didn't click on it, but I saw that it knew what it was connected to. Is there a video for that as well?
No, but
it's coming.
Yes and no. So
it's number 4 on the list.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into all the detail because it just makes me sound really boring. But the way
that's why we have you on.
Okay, so when you actually interrogate the Crossfire system via the Lua script, you know the little menu that, and apologies to all of you that aren't Crossfire or Tracer pilots, because this isn't going to be interesting at all. But the way it works is that you go into the Lua script and it shows you the devices that are currently connected. You kind of click on that device, and then this menu magically kind of appears, right? That menu isn't set anywhere. That menu is actually a dynamically created hierarchical structure that's within Smart Audio, I think it is, isn't it, for TBS, Smart Audio. So there's this fantastic stuff within Smart Audio that the technology, and Trappy doesn't really talk about it, and he'll probably be annoyed at me for talking about this. But the way, what it means is that when they change things in the code, you don't then have to update the Lua script to have the right menu. It dynamically creates the menu, and that's why it kind of appears line by line. KISS use exactly the same system, and they had a little keychain. I did a video on it a long time ago, and this little keychain you could actually plug into your TBS system and navigate the menu as though it was a Lua script, because it just read the menu out and you could navigate and change the settings. So that's what. So basically, yeah, that's why it works. But it's very cool when the first time it does it.
I read the manual on the KISS manual, right? And did you know, whilst disarmed, you can change channel power and whatever. Oh god, what is it? Band channel
and
power. That's it.
Yeah.
Disarmed, and you can move. You can just move the sticks like your left, and then up and down on the other like picture. I can't remember, but I read that, and yeah, apparently you can by Smart Audio or Tramp. You can sit there and move channel. I did not know that. I was like, what the hell? And that's been
next. You'll be telling me that you can have a display on the screen, Jack.
That is the
OSD.
basis of like smart audio, isn't it? What you're describing, changing channels and stuff without being armed. When you are armed and flying, it's a worse idea to change channels, is what I find.
Yeah, but no, it was nice. It's like the stick commands of all, like level calibration and all that sort of stuff. That's what I meant. I didn't know that was a feature.
This is because you like KISS. You're not used to like going into the OSD menu and like, I'll just change a load of stuff.
OSD, so.
I've tried OSD, and it just refuses to connect to anything. The little bastard.
Jack, I've just sent you the link to that video in the chat, on the private chat, so you can see it.
Thanks, Lee.
That's all right,
there was a worse.
What's this bit? Hang on. Stop talking about things on my list. Oh, okay. Sorry. Missed that one.
I was just saying there was a much worse update for me. Like ages ago, I updated OpenTX firmware, and it put an extra mix in. You know, when you set up a mix, you can have like a source of all your channels, and you use one called max sometimes for switches. And they put an extra one in, and it obviously worked on like a number. So I went to look at all my models. All the mix had the wrong source, and every single one I had to go through like 60 memories to go and change them all just to bring them back to working state, which is, I think, worse than binding.
I think this is the reason why Edge TX is kind of coming out, because I think there's a growing number of people who are finding OpenTX is less of a solution and now becoming part of the problem. So it's going to be interesting how that actually works out. I've been invited to the Discord server to be part of it, so I'm kind of interested because as a big fan of OpenTX in the early days, and for those of you that have only been in the hobby for a couple of years, you're lucky you missed a lot of the crap. It used to be that the radios were incredibly expensive, really dumb. And then the OpenTX system came out, 2014, really? It kind of caught, became a big thing, which is forever in the hobby. But then OpenTX has continued to get more and more refined and support more and more radios, but it hasn't got any easier over that time to use. There's still all of the wizards aren't there in the majority of radios. There's no ability to abstract all that complexity away from a new user to make it simple for them. You literally have to watch 20 videos, which, is great for my channel. Thanks everybody for watching that. But you have to watch 20 videos in order to learn how to set a model up or change things, or where do you do your expo, or, how do you reverse a channel? And it should, we got these wonderfully powerful radios with beautiful color screens, potentially touch, that could have really cute Lua scripts that you could walk you through, like Spectrum Fataba-esque, kind of what are you setting up today. And the other thing I actually just got in, I've got the eSheen version of the TX16S, so the Radio Master version. eSheen have brought one out, which I was a little bit suspicious about, so I thought I'll get one of those in. So I got that in, unpacked it and started looking at it, and they've changed a few things around on the radio, so physically some of the buttons are in different places. So and actually it's pretty good. So I got onto Radio Master and I said to the guys over there, I said, hang on a minute, did you actually make this for them? And they went, oh yeah, we OEM it for them. I was like, oh, okay, that explains why the hardware is kind of as good as the Radio Master stuff. But then when I turned it on, they've loaded all model memories for all of their bind and fly models, like the E160 helicopter. They're all sat there ready to bind. Nice. And I was like, wow, why am I so impressed with this? Because actually this is a really obvious thing to do. We should get it so that there's a way that you just plug an SD card in, or you connect it up to your computer and just click one button and it loads the model into your radio. You don't have to, import and export stuff in Companion. It is incredibly, it can be an awful lot simpler. And I really hope that with Edge, we start to get that, or it lights a fire under OpenTX butt, that they actually stop just tinkering around and messing about and actually give an operating system that, like I say, you don't have to watch 20 videos for. Because it's amazing how many times I go to fly with mates and they'll be, oh, I'm glad you're here, mate. I was trying to set up this the other day and I've really cocked it up because it's gone, my aileron's now backwards and I can't figure out what I've done. And you spend, and it's fine, that's fine. It's a 2-minute job to fix them all. But it's literally like you have this little line of 2 or 3 guys of like, I pressed a button, and I have no idea what I've done, but I've completely cocked it up.
There's not many things I hate about Frank, right? But the one thing that really pisses on my bonfire with Frank is that he doesn't he doesn't reverse a channel properly on a transmitter. He adjusts the weight into the negative value, and then that means the trim switches are the wrong way round.
Only if you
Boo
do
hiss,
that on
Frank.
the inputs. If you do it on the outputs, the trims still work the right way around.
But that is the thing with OpenTX. There's not one
output
way of doing
triangles.
something.
Yeah, exactly right. And this is the thing, right? So it's and people get really quite emotional about their way of doing it, right? So someone will show them the way of setting their radio
Frank's
up.
way's wrong. Sorry,
Right?
Frank.
Yeah, exactly right. And I'm sure
It's not, because if I'm doing, for example, flapper-ons or something, maybe where you've got different inputs being mixed into a single output, and it's the input that is wrong, then I've got to change the input. That's surely how that works.
Yeah,
the little arrows on the output. I'm sorry.
That's the way that I do it now, and but there's, as Wayne says, there's 2 or 3 ways to do it in every single way. And the issue is that when you are trying to unpick someone else, because the thing that always makes my blood run cold a little bit is when someone like a Patreon will say, I've tried to do a mix, I've tried to do a setup, it doesn't work. Can you have a look? Because you kind of go, yeah. Because you can't just look at the little bit they've done, right? The one screen in Companion, if they send you the model memory, you've actually got to check literally everything, because there's 3 or 4 places you can reverse the channel, and they might have reversed it here, but then they might have reversed it back somewhere else, and then they may have done it somewhere else, and then added a special function that only works.
There's an override to this value.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Wayne said, you can update the OpenTX, and it just goes, "I've changed everything for you. You're ready," and it's completely screwed the whole thing up. So yeah, Edge TX is going to be interesting, and I've got one radio here. I'm actually going to use that eSheen radio as my test bed for it and have a play. But I just hope that it means that OpenTX actually start thinking about what we as pilots want, rather than just bring us at little things.
So is the Edge, are the developers left from that just kind of another kind of group of hobbyists that have decided to kind of take things on their own back, or is there a kind of group supporting it that's kind of, is there a kind of mission in particular?
I'm not completely sure until I get a lot deeper into it about how broad it goes. I know there is a group of manufacturers who are getting, because at the moment, a lot of the innovation that we use in the hobby, all the radios and stuff, have this one common thread, which is OpenTX. And if you can't get OpenTX to talk to you nicely, or you can't meet their requirements, or you don't want to pay them that amount of money, then you have Freedom TX, or you have, XYZ TX or whatever on your radios. The TBS Tango stuff still isn't in there. The oh god, what was that bloody radio? Nirvana radio. Do you remember that one? The Nirvana radio.
NJ's favorite, I think, because it's got I'm fairly certain NJ's got that one.
It looks like a robotic dildo. I hated that thing.
It does look like a sex toy, but it is actually not a bad radio. The idea was very good. It's just that, I won't get into details. Well, at least. So OpenTX is kind of the common thing around it. I'm sure there's lots of people who would love just to be able to be more masters of their own destiny. And there's loads of things that I've been asking OpenTX for that they're just not interested in doing. And I kind of think they've lost the way a little bit, because originally they were the answer, right? We all used OpenTX because it was so powerful and it was great, and it was on radios that cost 150 quid rather than £400 for your Spectrum.
Amen, Penis. Amen. What was I going to say? I've something that Frank is right about. Guess what I bought, and I picked up a battery XL BatSafe XL box. I ordered it from. Do you remember these people called? They're partnered with DroneWorks. Make It Build It.
Mm-hmm.
And the DHL driver doesn't understand how a button works properly because he didn't press my doorbell hard enough, so the buzzer never went off. So I waited in all day for this parcel
with it sat on the doorstep.
No, drop it, hide it, lose it. Bloody, it, like, took a photo of my door and then went, "Sorry, we missed you." And I'm like, "No, I'm in, you prick." Yeah, I know. So there's going to be like the worst note tomorrow, being like, "Oi, Steve, learn how to press a button, you dickhead," written on a post-it note. So he's probably going to drop kick my
Having
item.
said that, I have had that problem with your doorbell before. I've pressed it and been like, I've definitely pressed it. The light went out and everything, and you didn't hear anything. So it might be your end.
To it. I went down and I pressed it and it worked. I think it's because, like, I don't know.
Because you were
Don't
asleep?
let me take that thing apart. No, I wasn't asleep. I was in the shower.
I think it's probably
that's the optimum time to answer the door when you're in the shower.
I don't know.
I think it's probably one of those things where, like, Jack knows the way that it works and can't understand that
No
other
one
people
else
don't
does.
have that knack. Yeah.
Yeah. Press it till you hear it.
Then again, I got an irate call from a delivery driver telling me he was ringing my doorbell. Why wasn't I answering? So when I opened the door, there was nobody there. When I looked out, he was next door ringing next door doorbell. the inability to be able to recognise this great big number on the door, but be able to phone me using presumably numbers on his phone was quite staggering.
Without doxing myself, I have a street that is very close to me, 2 streets away, that sounds like my street. And often you get delivery drivers trying to deliver to that house. And I get an irate phone call being like, "I'm outside," and I'm like, "No, you're not." And they're like, "I am," and I'm like, "Okay, hang on, let me just go downstairs. I'm now outside my house," and they're like, "No, you're not." And I'm like, "I know where I live," because I'm here right now. You're not. If you read the address properly, and then they really don't like that, like, I just put the postcode in. God damn you!
What are they like?
I know. Sorry.
So we did actually get completely away from the favourite feature of iNav 3.0 that Jack was looking forward to.
I can't remember. All that comes to my head is safe landing zones or some shit. And I can't get position hold to work on a wing. It doesn't work. Surely that's just for quads.
Are you seriously saying that you're waiting to fly?
Yeah, look, see, Wayne and I know the international symbol for loiter.
That's a symbol for loiter. Circles.
It doesn't fucking work. That's what I want to work, and I haven't got 2
isn't
modes
RD Pilot
selected.
this? Isn't that a figure 8?
Yeah.
iNav's a circle.
Jack, are you seriously saying that you're waiting to fly your flight test models because you want iNav to be able to pick a place to loiter?
No, no, they're my wings. I don't. Only the RC Explorer has got an iNav board in it, and I think that's what's happened with that. Is I set it up, and I can't remember whether I finished setting it up or if I went.
Do you not leave post-it notes for yourself?
No, I mean I've written on stuff. This is fucked with with that's what the white markers are for, and yeah, these markers, the paint markers. Yeah.
Can I just say, Frank, I'm so pleased I'm not the only one that literally does that writes on the things that where I was up to so that I'm not knackered. Because the thing is, if you do more than one, well, the thing is, I forget, and then I go to the field, and then because actually this week I had a disaster because I forgot on the bottom of my ZOHD dart, the little dart that I love, because it's got a vertical antenna for crossfire. I've got this little kind of foam comb that goes over it to stop it getting smashed in the boot. Because of course it sticks below the model, right? And it's got one of those, those remove before flight key rings. The red
Oh
one. Right?
no, you're not one of those people.
No, it was. We just did it as a laugh, and it stayed on there. And anyway, it turns out that, and I have flown it and forgotten to take that little thing off the bottom. And only when it's landed, and I've seen this piece of foam bounce, and I'm like, oh, and then gone and realised that, oh, you idiot, you were flying with this thing flapping in the wind. It turns out I launched it, and this little streamer thing got caught in the prop. The motor then stopped. Sorry, the prop stopped, but the motor continued to turn. So it twisted the wires all the way up to the ESC, then pulled it out, then snapped half the prop off. Funnily enough, it didn't go very well. And it all came and it was all over. But iNav is if you're struggling with iNav, mate, if you want to kind of go through, then let me know. But I definitely need to have a little list, because I will do things on a model and then get distracted, and I won't remember where I'm up to. And with iNav, if you miss one thing, it won't work.
Yeah, I can fly on manual mode. I can fly on like level mode, and it works fine. Return to home works beautifully. It will fly back to me and hover around and circle me. But for some reason, why if I select position hold, it just drops. It just kind of, and you take your hands off the sticks, it just literally nose dives into the ground.
So level is okay.
Yeah.
So what horizon or angle is okay. Return to home, which actually uses all the same modes and more, works fine.
Yes.
That is very weird.
I know, and I don't know. I know that I'm the problem. Like, when you're like, I have clearly, but I can't figure out what I've done.
Does it think it's a
Have I
helicopter?
got two modes selected? No.
Yeah.
Don't make me get it down.
That was going to be.
No, yeah, I know. That was that. In your defense, that was the problem last time, but it isn't now.
It was the problem. Okay.
You need to put alt hold with position hold. Is that right?
If you do GPS, if you have the model trimmed so that at cruise it maintains the height, you don't necessarily need altitude hold, but it definitely helps if you're in like a windy situation and the plane's getting bounced around. But I'm if you just give me a shout, don't suffer in silence.
No, I want to. One thing I do.
Guessing, but I reckon if I took a look at GitHub repository and read out what was going into version 3, it wouldn't say position hold on fixed wing makes model crash to the ground.
I know. Also, does anyone remember the old TBS VTXs? That only run on 5 volts. Has anyone got any idea of a decent power supply? Because I chose, a voltage thing to like run that off, because there's nothing.
I put one of the little HGLRC Nano VTXs, the one that's like the size of your thumbnail, in a model. The other that thing I made last week, and then realised it was only 5 volts, and kind of went, oh, and use one of the little Maytech. Again, like a thumbnail size thing.
Oh, the Maytech voltage dividers.
Yeah, and it worked beautifully, really good. I mean, that was in fixed wing, right? So I didn't have to use any caps or any of that crap. But
yeah, that's what I'm trying to. That's the problem I've got, is that I've got a ton of noise.
So you need an LC filter or something in there as well.
Yeah, maybe. I found a little thing, but I think it's because my camera wasn't tied to it as well.
Are you taking it straight from the battery leads, or are you taking it from somewhere else?
No, because the battery's 15 volts, isn't it?
No, I mean to feed your back.
Yes, the PDB.
Shiny Video is saying the Polulu 5-volt regulators is good, and I've heard that a lot. I don't use them, but I've heard that a lot.
I've used them a few times.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean they do the job. But I as you've seen, I put massive capacitors on everything and order the wrong size capacitors. So
Well, generally
Oh,
speaking,
Frank and his-
ESCs for fixed wing normally have big old capacitors in there. It just depends. If you're using some opto one from a quad, then that generally is noisier because the cleanup is elsewhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, yeah. I got told. I was chatting to. I was chatting to Magic Pencil about it, and he was like, "Oh, it's probably because the camera's getting noise because that's coming directly off the PDB, and the ground level is different."
Definitely have all the wires going back to one point for the ground, definitely, because I have had that as well.
Well, yeah, it's not the regulated ground; it's just going straight back to the PDB ground.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. I've found that with OSDs as well. When you get ghosting on OSDs, they only like a certain type of ground.
It's one of the worst things. I hate it when you make a model and then you fly it, and then either the OSD flicks in and out, or you have some weird distortion. It can take you days to try and figure out what it is by putting LC filters in caps. You end up, well, it's like a big Christmas tree of crap, and it's still exactly the same. I mean, I tried to get rid of it on this brain dart thing that I was talking about that I had to hot glue back together yesterday. And I tried everything to try and get, and in the end I was like, you know what, I'm not bothered. It's a very faint shimmer, kind of like that on the screen. And actually, once you've been flying for 20 seconds, you kind of forget about that. You're watching what's going on anyway. So I was like, you know what, I can't be asked. Because the thing is, you had to kind of desolder everything to put the LC filter in. Then you had to wait for a good day to go out to fly it. Find it was exactly the same. Then you came back, you took the LC filter, then you put the cap in, and then you put the cap in the LC, and then you thought maybe it's the LC filter's wrong. I put the LC filter in the other position for the VTX, and it just, you lose the will to live.
I know.
I mean, the modern VTXs are so much nicer, aren't they? They take care of so much of that crap, clearing up a lot of the stuff. Which version of the VTXs have you got?
I think Winter Blues giving us some super chat because we've been making such a good argument for the DJI HD stuff, which Winter Blue is such a fan of. I think that's what you're saying here. It's like, oh, there's analog stuff. We have to deal with a load of noise and ground and stuff.
I know. For like the small break. Hey, Wacky Wes. Hello, how you doing?
Hey.
You for a while and shiny
That's
video
the thing.
stuff.
Maybe just swap the VTX because it's that is a problem that I don't remember dealing with in the last few years. It used to be the fact that it's like, talk about quads. You have a PDB, you have a flight controller. You've like taking 5 volt from here and a 12 volt from here, and you're hoping it all connects. These days, it's just like battery and your full voltage is going into your flight controller. It runs it. You're putting your full voltage into your VTX. VTX can power the camera or whatever. Everything just handles it, and you get a lovely clean picture.
Yeah,
like,
everything's HV now, so you can just run it from the battery.
Yeah.
On most flight controllers, I mean, I must admit, a lot of them. I mean, I've been playing with these are some of the new ones from Holybro or Holybro, depending on how you want to say it. Interesting as you're talking about it, Wayne. I've just got one in front of me here, but these are so good these days at actually, doing all the voltage cleanup. You just have to solder everything on, and most of them these days have all the bloody cables, so you just kind of, you daisy chain them all together. The Matec flight controllers, the only Matec flight controller I've ever used that had really crappy voltage regulation was that little
411 one.
The 411 wing. I think that was the one that and it was just pants. That was the one I ended up putting LC filters and caps everywhere. Yeah. And the 405 and all the others are just, the voltage out of them is rock solid. It's really good.
I don't have a sparkler. That's Blue Owl's job. Oh, you get 2 for that much. Thank you. Yeah, see, if Blue Owl was on, you would have got a sparkler. But Winter Blue, I will gladly choke myself to death with fumes for that amount. Thank you very much, buddy. And right, so let's light it up. Here you go. The reason why I chose that VTX is because I want to send that quad to someone who's new in the hobby. So it's an easy to look up VTX. Trouble is, it's version 1.1 as well, so it's old school. Hasn't got smart audio, which doesn't help. But something easy to put the stuff. Thank you, Winter Blue. It was nice listening to a decent podcast with Bayness for a change. And Cerebrus is a cool guy. Can I guest on one of your episodes with a tip? It can be like just the tip with Jack. if that other guy lets you down, I forget his name, but he had a wonderful glider. Thank you. Yeah. If he lets you down, can I come on with just the tip with Jack? And I'll stick my tip in, if you know what I mean. You made me choke to death on my drink, painless.
Yeah, sorry about that. That was joke. He'd done a very good job of getting all that stuff in through a very small slot. That was all. So, shiny video stuff you're saying in the chat is this because we're all using old quad parts for your wings? Just goes to show wings are second-class citizens with a winky face. I think that is part of the problem. I know one of my mates built a little 600mm wing, and he put a quad motor and a quad prop on the back with a quad ESC because that's what he had in his spares bin, and it flew like crap. And the reason is that the prod very late quad props are all designed. It's static thrust, right? It's about generating enough static thrust to keep the thing in the air. Props and motors for fixed wing stuff is actually more about generating speed. So it's not about because static. I did a video a while ago. Some of you but there's a whole thing about static thrust, i.e., lots of air being pushed backwards, does not equal a really fast plane. And the problem is that the quad motors and props and fixed wing motors and props are kind of designed to do completely different things. So if you're right, if you use a quad system on a plane, it's usually, unless you think about it, you can get into big trouble. So I think you're right. I think that's absolutely what we do. Loads of people do it though, right? Because we don't talk about spare bits.
I think if you buy a nice plane and it's like big and it's going to carry expensive stuff, then you buy nice stuff for it. But bearing in mind you can get a bit of foam board and like I can make this fly with a couple of spare bits. I'm just going to put them on there and see what happens.
Yeah, what it usually is I've crashed the quad and I only have 3 ESCs and 3 motors, but that's good for 3 wings.
That's 3 planes. Yeah. VTOL. Just to let you guys know, I'm actually getting a VTOL model shipped here, a ready to fly VTOL, because I want to basically have a look and figure out how they've made it work. I think again it's a Holy Bro thing, but it's my first ever VTOL plane and VTOL experience, and I'm so excited about it. I've been trying to get into VTOL. I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Do we want to talk
what is the system on it, Lee? Is it a wing with big moving surfaces or vectoring or what?
I think it is like a more conventional plane with motors that are actually tilted at 45 degrees. It's a slightly weird one, but it's running Ardu pilot, so X-plane stuff, which is actually really good for VTOL systems. Because personally, I want the motors and props to do both jobs, so I'm not dragging a load of motors and props around when I'm flying that I don't need. Because a load of people, will have like a big motor and prop at the back to push it along or to pull it in the plane configuration, and then 4 motors that are just there to hold it in the air for the quad stuff. So when you're flying your wing, those 4 are just dead weight, and then when you transition and it just doesn't make sense. I thought the way that Frank was doing it was really smart, where it used the same motors and props for both types of flying, and you can do that, but it's
it works.
It's not as easy,
but it does require me to actually fly it at some point, which I haven't yet done. I bought a couple of weeks ago. I bought telemetry radio to actually know what's going on with it. But yeah, I need to just dig it out and plug it in and see what the GPS is like here, because that was the problem I was having before, was I wasn't getting the GPS working, and I didn't. Well, I'm not comfortable with the RG Pilot thing of fail-safing to flying around on GPS, and it just doesn't appeal to me at all. I would much rather it just die in the kind of iNav, well, at least Betaflight, clean flight kind of way of, if you lose control, please stop flying. That's my preferred way.
You say that until the first time it actually saves you bacon, and then you kind of go,
maybe.
okay, I'm converted. I'll get the tattoo and everything. I'm kind of there. But I used to be with you, definitely. But the first time you actually get into trouble and flick the return to home, or you have an issue and the radio, whatever, and it just kind of, gently sails into sight. Because the cool thing with things like RD Pilot and X-Plane is that you can set it to do things like then descend and, land and disarm. It doesn't do what the Betaflight stuff does, which, it's just basically a crash that just happens to be closer to you. It actually does land it. It's really, really smart stuff. It's someone in the comments saying it's Andrew Newton was looking at a VTOL. Not sure, Caroline, to be honest. I haven't seen that. It's the one from Holy Bro, I think.
I'm pretty sure his wasn't Holy Bro. It was a company I hadn't heard of.
Right. Okay. This it's quite expensive. That's my only issue with it. It's like 700-800 quid. I'm getting one as a loaner to play with. I'm not buying one. Well, you heard it. It might be when he rings me, I'll be like, I don't want to send it back. But I just love the idea.
To crash it, then.
Well, joking aside, this is one of my friends who has a shop, and he sent me the version, the FPV DJI system with the version 2 goggles and the DJI quad. How crap that was. And 1,200 quid or whatever it was. And he said, oh, I've got one in. I've opened it because I want to try it. If you want, I'll ship it to you and you can have a go. I was like, oh, yeah, that would be really good. It'd be good to have a play with it. And it arrived. And all I could think of as I would do my little flight was just this the cash register noise. It was just going like that, because I think if I break this, I am going to have to clean a lot of dishes to make this up to this guy. This is going to, so it was, I mean, the technology, DJI, it works beautifully. It's dead easy to fly. It was very, very impressive. But it was just 1,200 quid. Holy crap. Yeah, if I even bend anything with this, because it's not designed so that you can just easily replace the arm. Like, it's not a snap-on unit or anything with DJI. It was like you've seen them, haven't you? Have you seen how much stuff is on eBay for the DJI FPV stuff, the individual components? Obviously, people have just got it smashed into pieces and just be like, I can't use this now.
Especially with the price of the spare parts, even fairly directly from DJI for that stuff is just crazy money for anything.
40 quid for a new camera.
With the camera, the goggles, I must admit, are a big improvement in terms of the on-screen display of the version 1. It's got color and it's really pretty. But it's like, 1,200 quid. Holy hell. It was a weird one. I was so unimpressed. I thought, I'm not even going to make a video about that, because all it's going to do is I'm just going to be ranting, kind of like I am now, but for like a 30-minute video going, this is not what the hobby is about for me. But some people love it.
We've been having this heated debate on the Discord lately of is it terrible? Is it a complete perversion of the entire hobby, or is it, in my view, just a completely different thing that just happens to have the same acronym in its title? For me, in the same way that a road bike and a dirt bike and a mountain bike all have the word bike in them, an FPV quad and a DJI FPV quad both have FPV quad in them. But they're for different purposes, for different people doing different things with different budgets and different availability of time and skill levels, and it's just, you're looking to do different things with it. If you're just looking for kind of some fairly swoopy footage, then I think the DJI FPV quad is not a bad way to go. but just don't expect it to be
Survive a crash.
Yeah, survive a crash. Don't expect it to be like training wheels for flying like a normal FPV quad, really. I don't expect it to be as easy to mod or maintain or do anything with. But it's a different toy. It's a Mavic with some racing stripes on it. It's not.
That's exactly what it is, and a spoiler on the back. But
Yeah.
but in terms of the design is terrible. You know, the whole thing about when you land, the battery can get caught, and how it's laid out, and some very expensive parts are in very vulnerable places. And I just think DJI, with all the money that they have, they could have come out with something that was really innovative and groundbreaking, with kind of the snap-on arms and things like that could have made it. If you did fly it a little bit more aggressively and had a little bit of an accident, a disagreement with a tree or a piece of ground, then you didn't have to take the whole thing apart or reach for a soldering iron. Anyway, but
did you turn any of the stuff off?
I did, and it's just too heavy.
Terrifying.
It was horrible.
Sorry.
No, it weighs so much. I mean, if you threw it at somebody's head, you could probably kill them. It was like a house brick. It was ridiculous.
Thank you, Zero. Thank you, buddy. Number one mod, everyone. Someone who actually, in the early days, beginning of LDO, was feeding us information to talk about.
Well,
Curry, have you been flying?
Yeah, I flew last Friday. I was testing out a VTX with ridiculous power. I got the Rush FPV solo tank, which
25.0 milliwatts.
Yes, 25 milliwatts up to 1.6 watts. Not that I would do that, of course. All my videos are simulated, but yeah, surprisingly, it didn't overheat in a massive lump of fire, which surprised me most. That's because mostly it is a heat sink with a VTX somehow constructed in it, so it stayed completely cool. I was quite impressed with it because I really do like the Rush FPV stuff. Jack, if you put one of those on your whatever you're building, it won't have lines all over it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But neither will anyone else's within a 5 mile radius, because they'll all just have your image.
Yeah. That's the good thing. See, I thought I was flying it at 200 milliwatts because I set the power to 2, and that was 400 milliwatts. It goes 25, 400, 800, 1.6. It's slightly crazy. Surprisingly, I wasn't able to outfly the range on anything because I hit the sea, and I thought I'm going to have to turn around and come back now.
We've run out of England.
I have identified near me a set of fields that that all have public access to them and have no roads in between them, and you can go over a mile just over fields that are all accessible without any kind of people nearby. And green laners use it, so it's like there's no worries about bothering people with noise, because it's like motorbikes with their mufflers taken off, so I don't think we'll get some complaints. So I've got that I'm eyeing up that as somewhere to fly something.
That's good. Although I did have a comment in my video saying someone got to 6.25 miles with it, but they were worried about running out of battery because they were using a 4-inch long-range quad. And I thought the fact he's got that far doesn't impress me on the range. It just does impress me that it can keep a quad in the air and get it back again. He said he managed to get it flying for 24 minutes somehow, which is slightly crazy. But he still can't get to the end of the range. You'll have to put it in a big old plane and just leave it flying for an hour and see what happens.
Yeah, someone will do it, and they'll probably put it on YouTube.
I expect so.
Shady was asking, what was the TBS carbon quad where all the components were plugged in? Was it the Vendetta? Yes, it was, Shady. It was. I thought it was a really nice idea, but I didn't fly mine because I was really worried because it was all carbon fiber. It's a beautiful thing, but if you crashed it, it would have just disintegrated. You'd have had carbon fiber chips everywhere. You'd have never got it back together.
Yeah, didn't you have to buy the motors on the arm like a boomerang?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, they were like
boomerang pack.
That was it, like a boomerang pack. And the arms kind of snapped in, and it was all kind of all connectors. It was the connector was like a 3-prong XT60. The weren't they? The first place I'd ever seen them.
The MT60s, is that what they're called?
Wow, yeah, it is. Well done, Frank. That's pretty impressive. Where did you pull that from?
Hanging around with Tony and the X-Class.
X-Class boys, yeah.
He's making up for it for me saying that the way he does OpenTX is wrong. I mean, he's like,
it's not wrong.
I know
it works.
It's not wrong. It's a valid way to do it, Jack. I'm sorry.
Have we covered anything in your list, by the way? Have we done one?
We've done the Atom RC Dolphin. We've talked about VTOL, and that was about it.
Did you enjoy the Right to Repair episode, or have you stopped listening to Let's Show now?
No, I did. I did watch it after we had a chat. I like that. Some people were talking about in the comments, actually. See if I can go back up a little bit about how DJI want to make it so you send it back to them to get things fixed. Robin FPV, here it is. One of the Spectrum paying the 360 with his soldering iron and his hot glue gun. Is it? He didn't write that. I've just added that. Is it supposed to end up needing to be repaired by DJI? I thought that it kind of all ties into the same thing, because I think it's a really interesting topic, because the less of the kind of homebrew stuff that we do as the hobby, and the more kind of proprietary all-in-one closed system stuff we get into, the more we start to wander into that area where we need to think about that stuff, actually.
Yeah.
If you have a VTX that blows up and you buy the same VTX and you solder it in to your model and then it doesn't work, where does that leave you? Are you allowed to do that? Does that violate your warranty? Is it only the manufacturer that can do that? I think it's an interesting one. I mean, I'm not a fan of the whole proprietary thing anyway, because I like messing about, and I know lots of pilots don't like that part of the hobby. They just want to go out and fly. I have a couple of friends who would quite happily just you set it up, Lee, and just give it me, and I'll fly it. Okay, but I think that there is danger abstracting it to the point where it's like your car these days. Back when I was a kid, used to spend the weekend under it with set spanners and things, trying to make sure it was going to start on Monday morning to get it to work. There's no chance in hell you can do that with a modern car. You need a computer degree and all kinds of things to even look at what's going on. Back in the old day, you could see if the wire had fell off. It's probably going to be something to do with that. These days, you have to get all your codes and then clear your code so it'll even start.
I know, and you've got stuff like Elon Musk, switching off rapid charging, out of warranty, or if they don't like what you've been up to, and basically the whole idea of that episode was we fly stuff that we're going to crash, we're going to need spare parts, and the fact is that they're not supplied for long enough, or there's like, for instance, the T-Motor motors, they have iterations. We're on iteration 4, so you could buy the 60s V1, V2, V3, and V4, and they're not compatible with each other at all. And and like with DJI and flight controllers, say like you've got a KISS flight controller, if you've got the fancy pants PDB, where you're using the serial ports plugged in and stuff, you can kind of like fully test it. But if you're not, and you use the solder pads, remember the number one thing that Lee Painter 360 used to teach us? Plug it in first and see if it works
before you solder it.
Before you solder it, yeah, exactly. I've got that tattooed on me somewhere in my mind.
It was an interesting one last week, actually. I wish I'd have been around, because I'd have probably jumped on for that one, because I think it's an interesting topic, and one we're going to bump into more, because even with things like Fat Shark goggles. I mean, Fat Shark have an amazing warranty. All right, we're talking about analog. All the DJI guys have just done. But the Fat Shark goggles, if you open them up and you play with them and you screw it up, a Fat Shark, you can still send them back, and they'll probably still fix them for you, and they'll probably still do it for free. I mean, I've got one of my Fat Sharks. The fan started making a noise, and I didn't have no issue at all kind of taking the fan shroud off and having a look, because it might be that there was, a bug's got in there, or it might be that with it being in the case, the little shroud that goes around it is slightly out of round and it's catching one of the blades. No problem at all.
Oil pressure bearing?
It could be oil pressure bearing. It could be, the beak, what was it? The piston rings, whatever. I had no issue with that, because I know if I need to get it fixed, I can just raise a ticket. But it's quite, even doing things like taking my goggles apart to put things like the head tracker in, it's kind of like I feel reasonably comfortable with that. I probably wouldn't when I first got them, because I know that if I break them, I've got someone that, a manufacturer that will back me up, rather than tell me, well, that's tough shit, you broke it, excuse my French. The new set's £450, but you have to wait 3 weeks because we haven't got any. So yeah, I'm going to watch that with interest. So thank you for bringing that up, Jack, actually, because I thought that was an interesting one, that one.
Yeah, no worries. We're going to just go over a few minutes so that the editor can cut the rough beginning. Cut my swear words, but
so if there's any questions,
there
then,
is questions.
Have we got questions?
Yeah, Fraser Steen asks, what about the best night flying plane? What with lights on?
Oh, depends what you're really after. But one of the ones that we really enjoy, me and my mates, is something called a Night Walrus. I'm not sure if they do it anymore. It was like a walrus with loads of LEDs embedded in it. Hobby King did it. Beautiful flyer. You can kind of soar it about, and it does look like a UFO. But actually putting LEDs inside, like a white model, like, God damn it, the plane behind me actually isn't too difficult. You can put a couple of strips in.
There are some on here, but you can't see them because it's blowing out.
But it depends what you want. I mean, it's pretty easy to, if you're building a wing, stick it inside a wing as well. But no, the Night Walrus is probably the one that springs to mind. There's also there was an Orbit Neon, which was like a wing that ZOXD did, but it's a very tame wing. It's only nice if you just want to float around. If you want to fly it like you stole it, it's not good at that.
Just a thought, with your canards, are they actually like actuated?
They're not articulated, no.
That starts on my list at some point.
Yet. But if it means I can do faster turns for FPV combat, you never know. I keep wanting to call it Andrew.
Do your like Harrier viffing and just full flap.
Do the Maverick Top Gun maneuver and just hit the brakes.
I'm waiting for some duckerons or whatever they're called.
Kind of clamshell spoiler things where
the split.
Your flapperons split open so that you have kind of drag on that side, so you have your.
I'm waiting for the day that Lee. I speaking of which, I remember back in 2015, if you wanted any technical help with a Tyrannus, it was Lee's channel or CPO. If you remember him, everything CPO. Like, oh my word! Have you seen the Mud Art Mold LED controller? Has anyone seen any of that?
No, that sounds interesting.
What is it?
So yeah, let's have a quick Google. Hang on.
Live.
I know. I just wondered if any of you had search for Google.
Is that like the one? Oh, who was it? There was an LED controller that was released quite a few years ago. Some of the racers got together and put it together. Is
this it? Hang on, share. This is going to be a nightmare for anyone listening. It looks like a little Bluetooth module. Is this right?
It's like an ESP32 or something, isn't it?
Yeah. Shout out to Aloft Hobbies, by the way. Sponsored tonight's show.
Is it literally just a breakout board for an ESP32 that's got some just for plugging some LEDs into it? Is that the idea?
It looks like it's got WS2012 LEDs that connect to it, and it looks like either Wi-Fi or Bluetooth connection to something. Yeah, Caroline's saying it's an ESP32. I love that comment, Caroline, by the way, of what you think the next plane's going to be called. Killer whale, dolphin, and then the next one was a different kind of whale with a slightly rude name. I won't say it. I've already said one rude word.
Sometimes manufacturers come out with awful. I remember the very first OSD I got back in 2012 was called the Pigeon. And if you're talking about like lovely flying things like hawk or eagle and all these things, someone came up with pigeon and thought that's a cool name. That's a flying thing, not all a flying rat, basically. But yeah. Weird pigeon.
Well, there's two camps, isn't there? You got the fluffy koala FPV, or you've got face ripper, death destroyer FPV. There's nothing in between, is there? It's like cuddle FPV or death ripper. Which are you? Even Menace RC calls it all his antenna, Thrasher and all those kind of things. It's like it's an antenna. It's an antenna.
I know. I'm trying to get him to send that switch over to flight test, and I'm like, you're never gonna. They're like super into Jesus, and he's like, yo, I'm Menace RC. Everything here is like kill, maim, destroy. Oh my god, why are these products named such unholy names? This is not the word of the Lord. God damn you, Greg. I remember the Doge OSD, man. That's do you remember anyone remember that?
Yeah, DOGE.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Doge. God, that didn't work that well. Right, guys, let's call it there. Don't forget, next week is our 300 episode, which I need to talk to Lee about.
That we definitely have a plan for, and we are very looking forward to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No worries.
We'll talk about that.
You've been listening to Let's Drone Out. Thank you so much for all our Patreons. Thanks for everyone who showed up. Thank you so much for all the super chats. Zero, Winter Blue. Thank you guys. Good to see Clive. Good to see you. Win, Richard Warwick, Tailspin, Robin FPV. Who
Caroline,
else? Caroline.
Lots of content contributed this evening.
Make Me Lab, RC Robotics. Few people we don't really see. Bear, is it like Big Bear or something? I can't remember. Wacky Wes is here. Shiny Video Stuff. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thanks to all our Patreons for keeping this show on the road and making Frank's life easier now that America's taken everything that we make on any episode. Anyway, thank you guys. You've been joined by Andrew / Frank.
Bye.
Everyone's favourite Kerry Kitten.
Goodbye.
The Lord of the Wings, Painless 360.
Happy fly.
And I've been bright until I fly. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Bye.